They won't mention this at your annual checkup, but the truth is urgent. If you stop caring for your sexual health after 60, your body may already be slipping into decline, and you don't even know it. Most of us were taught that intimacy is something for the young, a phase of life you naturally leave behind. But that's a myth and a dangerous one, because what's often dismissed as just aging may actually be the silent damage from abandoning a vital part of yourself. In today's video, we're going to unravel one of the most overlooked longevity secrets: how the absence of self-intimacy can impact everything from prostate health and mental clarity to your sleep, mood, and even immune system. This isn't about fantasy. It's about function, and it's a key pillar of healthy aging that too many people ignore. So let me ask you something and be honest. When was the last time you gave your own body the attention it quietly craves? If you've been feeling more tired, less focused, or just not quite like yourself lately, this message may change how you think about aging, because senior health isn't just about eating well or taking vitamins. Sometimes it's about remembering that your body still needs connection even with yourself. At Live Healthy, after 50, we share real stories, trusted advice, and doctor tips for older adults so you can take back control of your well-being and live independently with strength, dignity, and joy. If this resonates with you, tap like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss vital insights. And here's a question for you. Do you believe your intimate health is still important after 60? Let us know in the comments. Now let's dive into what really happens when physical self-care disappears and why the cost may be far greater than you think. Number 1, loss of urinary control and declining prostate health. You might think waking up multiple times a night to urinate is just a normal part of getting older. But as a doctor who has spent over 3 decades working with older adults, I can tell you there's often something deeper going on. And in many cases, it begins with a quiet but serious oversight neglecting your sexual health. When the body no longer experiences regular ejaculation, whether through intercourse or masturbation, your prostate doesn't get the signal it needs to function properly. The fluid it produces begins to stagnate. That may not sound dramatic, but in a living organ like the prostate, stagnation is dangerous. Over time, it creates the perfect storm for inflammation, swelling, and a chain reaction that can seriously disrupt your daily life. One of my patients, Mr. Harris from Tallahassee, Florida, was 72 when he first came to me. He was healthy, active, still played tennis twice a week, but he was exhausted from getting up 5 or 6 times a night just to use the bathroom. He chalked it up to age. What he didn't realize was that his prostate had become congested, something that could have been prevented with regular release. You see, the prostate isn't a passive gland. It expands, contracts, and depends on movement to stay healthy. When that movement stops, it starts to swell. That swelling presses on the urethra, making it harder to empty the bladder completely. The result, frequent urges, weak stream discomfort, and in severe cases, urinary retention or even infections. And it doesn't stop at nighttime interruptions. Many older adults start to avoid long drives, limit fluid intake, or even plan their outings based on proximity to the nearest bathroom. That's not just inconvenient, that's a threat to independence. Research from the Harvard Medical School has shown that men who ejaculate at least 21 times per month have a significantly lower risk of developing prostate cancer. It's not about youth or libido, it's about giving your body the function it still needs to protect itself. This is where natural health for seniors really matters. When we talk about senior health tips, it's not just about food and exercise. It's also about supporting the organs that silently carry so much of our well-being. Ignoring the prostate's need for activity, especially after age 60, is like ignoring your heart's need for movement. Sooner or later, you'll feel the effects. And here's the hardest part for many to admit: they're suffering in silence. Too embarrassed to talk about it, too used to pushing through. But I've seen firsthand what happens when that silence is broken. When a man regains control over his bladder, he often regains something far greater: his confidence, his energy, his freedom to live life on his own terms. If you're experiencing frequent nighttime urination discomfort or a feeling that your bladder never fully empties, it may be time to look beyond the usual advice. This isn't just a bathroom issue. It's a signal that your body's asking for balance, for support, and for attention. And yes, one of the simplest senior home remedies available to you, one that costs nothing, requires no prescription, and can be done in the privacy of your home, is reconnecting with your own body. Not for indulgence, for health, for strength, for peace of mind. Let's move forward and explore the next consequence, because what begins in the prostate doesn't stay there. It travels upward to the brain. Number 2, mental fog and diminished clarity from a stimulation-starved brain. It doesn't happen all at once. It sneaks in slowly, forgetting why you walked into a room, losing your train of thought mid-sentence, struggling to finish a story you've told 100 times before. Most people chalk it up to just aging, but I want to challenge that idea. As a physician who's worked with older adults for over 30 years, I've seen firsthand how the brain changes, not just because of time, but because of neglect. Not mental neglect, physical. What many don't realize is that a lack of intimate stimulation in later years can directly affect your mental sharpness. This isn't speculation, it's neuroscience. When your body experiences arousal, even through something as simple and natural as masturbation, it triggers a surge of brain-supporting chemicals. Dopamine for focus, serotonin for mood, oxytocin for connection, testosterone for vitality and motivation. These aren't just pleasure hormones, they're survival tools. And when you stop engaging your body in this way, those natural chemical boosts become less frequent. I remember one patient, a retired math teacher named Frank from Dayton, Ohio. At 68, he came into my office with a simple concern. "Doc, I just don't feel like me anymore." He wasn't in pain. His labs looked fine, but he felt disconnected, foggy, not depressed exactly, just dull. When I asked about his physical intimacy, he laughed uncomfortably. "That chapter's closed," he said, "but the brain doesn't close that chapter. It keeps asking for input-stimulation balance." Frank's story is more common than you think. This subtle fog, this drift away from feeling like yourself, is one of the earliest signs that your brain is lacking essential fuel. It's not just about memory, it's about motivation, identity, presence. Numerous studies, including work published by the Journal of Sexual Medicine, have shown a strong link between healthy sexual activity and cognitive performance in older adults. These findings reinforce what many of us in the field of healthy aging already understand: the brain doesn't retire from needing stimulation just because you've hit a certain age. When we talk about aging gracefully, we often focus on staying physically active, eating well, or doing crossword puzzles. But what if I told you that part of maintaining your clarity, your spark, might depend on how connected you stay to your own body? This isn't about desire, it's about brain health. When that stimulation fades, your brain is left with less to work with. Cortisol, the stress hormone, builds up. Neural pathways slow, blood flow to critical regions of the brain decreases. Over time, you might notice that your reaction times are slower. You hesitate more. You avoid conversations because you're afraid of forgetting your point. That's not aging well. That's your body calling for help. This is why longevity tips need to include a broader understanding of self-care. Mental alertness isn't preserved by accident. It's protected through rhythm, through balance, and through honoring what your body still needs. If you found yourself struggling with clarity or just feeling like a faded version of who you once were, don't assume it's inevitable. You're not broken. You're not too old. You might just be missing a simple natural signal your brain has relied on for decades. When you reconnect with that rhythm, even in private, your brain gets the message: I'm still here. I'm still needed. I still matter. That's what real aging gracefully looks like. Not giving up, but tuning back in. Number 3, hidden depression and emotional numbness. It's easy to notice when someone is sad. What's much harder to see and far more dangerous is when someone stops feeling anything at all. For many older adults, the most common emotional symptom I see isn't sadness. It's emptiness, a quiet sense of fading into the background, of going through the motions without really being there. I've met patients who look fine on paper, good blood pressure, healthy labs, no major complaints. But when I ask how they're really doing, they pause, they shrug, then say something like, "I just don't feel like myself anymore." That was the case with Marianne, a 74-year-old widow from Spokane. She was once vibrant, active in her church, full of warmth. But over the past year, she said she felt like she was watching her life from the outside. Not in pain, not joyful, just flat. "It's like I'm disappearing," she told me, "and I don't know why." What many don't realize is that emotional numbness in later life is often tied to a loss of physical intimacy, not necessarily with another person, but with oneself. When we stop engaging with our bodies, we don't just lose touch physically, We lose emotional grounding. And over time, that disconnection can lead to a slow, silent spiral into depression. This is where the conversation around senior wellness needs to expand. Because for many, the absence of pleasure also means the absence of release. During climax, the body releases oxytocin and endorphins, natural chemicals that soothe anxiety and lift mood. These aren't just feel-good hormones. They're essential tools your brain uses to stay balanced. Without that release, especially during a stage of life marked by grief loss or major transitions, the emotional weight builds up. Stress hormones rise, joy becomes harder to access, and life begins to lose its color. This isn't about sex, it's about survival. One of the best doctor tips for older adults I can give has nothing to do with pills or therapy. It's this: don't abandon your body, stay connected to it. Even small acts of self-touch without shame, without pressure, can serve as powerful emotional resets. And this is not just anecdotal. According to a study published in the Archives of Sexual Behavior, older adults who maintain healthy, intimate routines report significantly lower levels of depression and anxiety. That's not a coincidence. That's biology at work. The path to positive aging isn't paved only with medication and clean diets. It's also about presence, about giving yourself permission to feel again, to engage, to reclaim what aging culture too often tells you to leave behind. And I get it, many grew up believing that self-touch was inappropriate, especially later in life. But that belief has quietly done harm. It's left too many older adults feeling invisible, emotionally dry, and silently isolated. You deserve better than that. Your body may have changed, but your need for connection hasn't. Reconnecting with that part of yourself doesn't mean you're chasing youth. It means you're honoring the life still inside you, the one that wants to feel, to release, to remember that it still matters. If you've been living in that fog, feeling flat, disengaged, or like you're slowly fading, this may be your signal to come back. Not for anyone else, just for you. Because real wellness after 50 isn't just physical, it's emotional. It's remembering that you still have a voice, a rhythm, a pulse that deserves to be heard. And sometimes it starts with the quietest action of all, simply reaching back in and reminding your body, I'm still here. Free. T number 4, chronic sleep loss and a body running on empty. You lie awake in the middle of the night, not in pain, not fully alert, just stuck, staring at the ceiling, hoping your body will drift off again, but knowing it probably won't. If that's been happening more often, you're not alone. As we age, sleep becomes more fragile. But for many older adults, the missing link to restful healing sleep isn't in a pill or a breathing exercise. It's in something far more natural and deeply misunderstood. The human body was designed to follow rhythms. One of the most powerful is the release of calming neurochemicals that help shift the body into rest mode. Oxytocin, prolactin, endorphins. These are nature's sleep switch, and they're released most effectively during climax. When that release is no longer a regular part of life, those chemicals disappear from your nighttime routine. What replaces them is restlessness, light sleep, sudden awakenings around 2 or 3 a.m. Sound familiar? That's exactly what Jim, a 69-year-old from Cedar Rapids, told me. He'd been waking up like clockwork every night, unable to fall back asleep. His mind raced, his body felt wired. We ruled out sleep apnea and major health issues. Then I asked about intimacy. He looked at the floor and said, "It's been years." This is a pattern I've seen again and again. Without the hormonal cascade triggered by orgasm, the nervous system struggles to shift from stress to rest. Cortisol, the hormone that keeps you alert, stays elevated. Your heart rate doesn't drop. Your muscles stay tense. You may fall asleep, but your body doesn't stay there long enough to recharge. And poor sleep doesn't just make you groggy. Over time, it chips away at everything: your memory, your balance, your immune system. In fact, studies from the National Institutes of Health have shown that chronic sleep deprivation is directly linked to increased risk of falls, slower healing, and even cognitive decline in people over 60. That's why improving sleep is one of the most important steps in any healthy routine. And yet most people don't know that the body's own chemistry is often the best medicine. If you've been following advice about over 60 wellness cutting caffeine, turning off screens, setting a bedtime, you're on the right track. But if sleep still won't come, ask yourself this: when was the last time your body truly let go? When did you last experience a complete release, one that shifted your brain out of high alert and into recovery mode? This is not about sexuality, it's about biology. And it's why daily habits for longevity must include reconnecting with the body's natural ways of calming itself. You don't need a partner. You don't need equipment. All you need is a willingness to explore what your body already knows how to do, because sometimes the thing that helps you sleep isn't another supplement. It's remembering that your body still responds to touch, still remembers how to rest, still knows how to feel safe. Jim later told me that after slowly reintroducing physical self-care into his routine, his sleep changed. I fall asleep faster. I stay asleep. I wake up feeling like I've actually rested, he said. That's the difference a small shift can make. Not just more hours in bed, but better hours. The kind that heal your brain, support your heart, restore your strength. Because real rest isn't just about being still. It's about helping your body release what it's been holding on to all day long. And sometimes the most powerful path back to deep sleep begins with reclaiming something as simple and as sacred as your own rhythm. Chapter 5, pelvic floor weakness and poor blood circulation. You may not think about your pelvic floor until something starts to go wrong. A slight leak when you cough, an odd pressure when you stand too long, that low back pain that seems to come from nowhere. But what's really happening underneath might surprise you, and it has everything to do with connection. The pelvic floor is the foundation of your core. It's a group of muscles that supports your bladder, bowels, and reproductive organs. And like any other muscle, if you don't use it, you lose it. When intimacy disappears from your routine, especially self-stimulation, the pelvic floor becomes inactive. It stops contracting, blood flow slows, the nerves dull. Over time, this creates a silent decline that shows up in ways people rarely associate with intimacy at all, like balance problems, urinary leaks, or difficulty standing up without shifting your weight. I think of Joe, a 71-year-old retired mechanic from Helena, Montana. He came in complaining about minor leaks and discomfort when sitting too long. "Doc," he said, "I used to be steady on my feet. Now I feel like the ground's always moving." Joe hadn't been sexually active in years. It just didn't seem important anymore. But that unimportant part of his life was quietly affecting everything from his lower back to how long he could walk without stopping. Here's what most don't know. Regular self-stimulation is not just about pleasure, it's a form of natural health for seniors. During climax, the pelvic floor contracts rhythmically. That's a workout, a real one, and it helps keep those muscles toned, responsive, and alive. These contractions also boost circulation to the lower body, especially to areas that tend to get stiff or stagnant with age. They keep the tissues elastic. They send a clear message through your nerves: stay awake, stay ready. Without this stimulation, those vital signals fade, muscles weaken, circulation declines, and over time you lose strength where it matters most. This leads to an uncomfortable truth. Many older adults begin to avoid social outings, not because of age, but because they don't trust their own body. They fear the unexpected leak, the sudden back spasm, the embarrassing moment that could have been prevented. As a doctor who works in senior health, I've seen how this one issue spirals into others. It leads to less walking, less movement, more sitting, more stiffness, until one day the body that once felt dependable now feels foreign. But it doesn't have to be that way. There are many ways to support pelvic health: Kegel, stretching, even posture work. But one of the most overlooked is something many already know how to do: reconnecting with their own body through safe, private self-intimacy. It's not shameful, it's not indulgent, it's a form of preventive care, a quiet exercise that protects dignity, function, and freedom. Pelvic weakness can lead to falls, injuries, and long-term disability, but stimulation helps preserve balance. It keeps the base of your body strong, and it supports the blood flow that nourishes every system connected to it. Joe didn't need a new medication. What he needed was a new perspective. After a few weeks of adding simple self-care back into his routine, he told me something that stuck, "Doc, I feel grounded again, like I'm in my body, not just on top of it." That's the power of reconnecting. Not just to feel good, but to stay strong, steady, and confident in your own skin. Because true strength in later life doesn't come from ignoring the body. It comes from listening to it and moving with it, even in ways that seem small. Your pelvic floor isn't asking for attention. It's asking for activation. And you still have the ability to give it exactly what it needs. A weakened immune system, and the forgotten defense. Every winter, more and more older adults find themselves getting sick and staying sick longer. A simple cold turns into a nagging cough. A scratchy throat lingers for weeks. Cuts heal slower. Energy disappears. Most assume it's just what happens with age. But what if your immune system isn't just aging, it's missing something it used to rely on? There's a quiet but critical link between sexual stimulation and immune strength that most people, doctors included, rarely talk about. When the body stops experiencing regular intimate release, it doesn't just lose pleasure, it loses protection. During climax, the body produces a surge of powerful immune-supporting compounds. One of the most important is immunoglobulin A, or IgA. This antibody is a first-line defender, especially in your respiratory and digestive systems. It blocks viruses before they take hold, fights bacteria before it multiplies, and helps reduce inflammation throughout the body. But here's the catch. Without stimulation, your levels of IG drop. So do endorphins, natural chemicals that ease stress and pain, lower inflammation, and help the immune system function at its best. Without them, the body becomes more vulnerable, slower to recover, easier to knock down. Eleanor, a 67-year-old from Flagstaff, had always been strong. But over the past 2 years, she'd been sick nearly every season. Flu, colds, even shingles. "I just don't bounce back like I used to," she told me. We went over her senior nutrition guide, sleep patterns, medication list. Nothing obvious stood out. Then I asked her a different kind of question, one most doctors don't. "When was the last time you felt connected to your body?" She hesitated, then admitted it had been years. After losing her partner, she let go of physical intimacy completely. "I didn't think it mattered anymore," she said. But it does, not for romance, for resilience. Recent studies, including research published in the journal Psychology and Health, have shown that sexual activity, even solo, can significantly increase IgA levels. And it's not just about disease prevention, it's about overall healing, hormone balance, and your body's ability to manage daily stress. These are the tools that prevent aging diseases, and they're built right into your biology. Unfortunately, many older adults see intimacy as optional. They focus on food supplements and walking routines, but ignore this deeply natural immune booster. That's a mistake. Because when the body stops receiving that signal, that message of life, of movement, of activation, its defense systems quiet down, the guards lower, and viruses, bacteria, even internal inflammation begin to creep in unnoticed. Eleanor decided to try again, gently, privately, with no expectations. Within a few months, she felt a shift. "I'm not just recovering better," she said. "I feel more alive, like my body's working with me again." That's the message I want you to hear. Your immune system doesn't need a fancy prescription. It needs rhythm, connection, a reminder that you're still here and still participating in your health. When we talk about natural health for seniors, we have to include this, because your body still knows what to do. It's just waiting for you to remember. Touch is not just a sensation, it's communication. And for your immune system, it might be the difference between barely making it through winter and thriving. Sacred 7, disconnection from self and the quiet loss of identity. There's a point in life when many people stop seeing themselves in the mirror. They still function. They still move through the day. But something inside feels distant, like they're living in a body that no longer belongs to them. For some, this begins after retirement. For others, after a loss. But for many, it starts the moment they stop touching their own body. That might sound strange at first, but I've seen it more times than I can count. As a doctor working with older adults for over 3 decades, I've watched patients slowly drift from who they used to be. Not because of disease, not because of injury, but because they stopped feeling present in their own skin. And when you no longer feel your body, it's not long before you begin to ask, who am I now? When we stop engaging with ourselves physically, even in the most private, simple ways, we don't just lose sensation. We lose the emotional thread that keeps us grounded in our identity. We stop caring as much about how we look, how we move, how we connect. Self-care fades. Daily movement becomes a chore. Social interactions grow fewer. Confidence disappears without anyone noticing. That was the case with Alan, 70, from Eugene, Oregon. A former high school band director, he was once sharp, funny, always put together. But when he came in for a checkup, his clothes were loose, his posture slouched, and his energy felt flat. When I asked how he was doing, he said, "I just don't feel like me anymore." Alan wasn't sick, but he had stopped taking care of his body, and in doing so, stopped connecting with the parts of himself that once brought him joy and purpose. Over time, he began skipping walks, avoiding mirrors, and letting go of the small rituals that gave structure to his day. What he lost wasn't just motivation, it was identity. This is why conversations about how to live healthy after 50 must go deeper than medication and meal plans. Because part of aging gracefully is staying emotionally connected to yourself. And that connection often begins where people least expect it, through gentle, regular physical contact with their own body. Studies in geriatric psychology show that physical self-connection, especially through safe private intimacy, can help restore emotional well-being and self-recognition in older adults. It's not about chasing youth, it's about maintaining presence. When you touch your body even briefly, you remind yourself, I'm still here. I still matter. I'm still alive in this body. And that message ripples outward. You start moving more. You care again about your clothes, you make plans with friends, because suddenly you're no longer invisible to yourself. Alan began reintroducing small, intentional self-care into his routine, including physical intimacy. A few months later, he came back with a new shirt-trimmed beard and clearer eyes. I don't know what changed, he said, but I feel like I came back to myself. That's the kind of transformation we aim for in true positive aging. Not just physical health, but personal reconnection. Because when you give up touch, you risk giving up the very thing that makes you you. So if you've been feeling a little faded, if you've stopped recognizing the person in the mirror, consider this: it might not be about what you've lost, but what you've stopped giving yourself permission to feel. And it's not too late to come back. Every quiet act of self-care is a message to your body. A way of saying, I'm still here, I still matter, I still deserve to feel alive. Because when you stop honoring that connection, the impact adds up. Your prostate begins to weaken. Your sleep becomes restless. Your mind loses clarity. Your mood grows heavy. Your immune system falters. And slowly you drift away from yourself. This isn't just about aging. It's about forgetting the power you still hold to heal, to feel, and to reconnect. So let this be a gentle invitation. Start small, not for pleasure, but for health. Not for desire, but for dignity. Not for anyone else, but for the part of you that still wants to thrive. Because live healthy after 50 isn't just a slogan, it's a commitment to your body, to your mind, to your freedom. If this message spoke to you, please like this video, share it with someone who may need it, and subscribe for more trusted senior health and healthy aging insights rooted in compassion and science. If this helped you, don't forget to subscribe. Your health is your greatest wealth.